Some, for years, have labeled Trump, quote, an insurrectionist. Raskin probably got a talking to. The reason being, it's bad politically for them. It makes them look like fools because they've been screaming about Trump not following the will of the people. Now they're postulating a plan on doing what they allege he did. Gallup is saying that the Democrats have more enthusiasm than the Republicans. Jocelyn Benson did something. Will the Democrats accept defeat is the question. When Trump wins, what are they going to do about it? We've had some conversation here about a meltdown that is surely going to come to fruition when this does happen. But what about the actual practicalities? Remember, we saw this clip from Jamie Raskin where Raskin was saying that they are not going to actually appoint Trump, confirm Trump, count the electoral votes when the time comes to keep him out of office, even if he does win. We remember this exchange.
It's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because it's going to be up to us.
Remember, that's what he said. Then that whole clip goes on. He's like, nut job. But he is then saying that apparently they're going to confirm Trump. They'll move forward with the process according to this story. We'll see. So they say, Dems say that they will certify a Trump victory. Even the ones who think the 14th Amendment disqualifies him says that some for years have labeled Trump, quote, an insurrectionist, even though he's clearly not. Impeached him for stoking violence on January 6th and then failed to convict him and suggested he was constitutionally prohibited from returning to the White House. We've heard a lot of that. But even as those lawmakers continue to doubt Trump's eligibility for the presidency, they say that if he wins, they don't expect efforts to deny him the presidential electors to materialize. Don't expect it to happen. Okay. Democratic leaders are saying publicly and privately they want a drama-free transfer of power, even if it means setting aside some members' view that Trump is ineligible to return to the presidency. The 14th Amendment prohibits any federal office holders who have engaged in insurrection from holding office again, and Democrats have long suggested Trump ran afoul of that when he inflamed the violent mob. Now, at the time, House Democrats overwhelmingly voted to impeach Trump for incitement of insurrection. Their leader, Jeffries, has routinely called him the insurrectionist in chief. There appears to be little appetite among Democrats to challenge the results during the J6 session. Now, this woman, Minority Whip Catherine Clark from Massachusetts, a Democrat, says the integrity of our democratic process depends on the peaceful transfer of power. Trump has decided the only valid elections are elections he wins. He is the only president who supported an insurrection. Okay. The Supreme Court waded into the issue. They ruled, remember, when they kept Trump on the ballot because Jenna Ellis from Colorado already tried to throw him off the ballot using the insurrection clause. That way it made its way up to the Supreme Court. Thankfully, 9-0, they said no, that's not how that works. Said only Congress can decide how the Constitution insurrectionist ban should be enforced. But the court did not take a position on whether Trump's conduct crossed the line. And when the opinion came out, remember, we were kind of hitting the panic button on that a little bit. Like, what is the standard by which Congress can declare an insurrectionist? It wasn't really clear. Only Congress can decide. Okay, but how? Like with a resolution or a bill or, what do you want? It's created an awkward dynamic for House Democrats. Can lawmakers who have declared Trump ineligible to hold office nevertheless support and vote to certify the electors? They've been screaming he's an insurrectionist and they're going to go vote for him? Oh, it's going to be painful for them. Clark's message echoes similar comments by other top Democrats that they've made. The bottom line, they say, is that unlike Republicans and those still equivocating, Democrats have no interest in casting uncertainty. We'll see. Rep. Joe Morrell, a top Democrat on the committee that oversees election procedures, was unequivocal. Says if Trump wins, I'll vote to certify him. Aides say that Democrat leaders hope to squelch potential calls by their rank and file to invoke the insurrection clause. All right, so there is a contingent of it that is probably talking about it actively right now for trying to prevent a popularly elected Trump from returning to office. And they'll say the Supreme Court said we can decide it, so we're doing that now. When Congress meets on J6 to count the votes, lawmakers are largely bound to accept the certified results of the states. But federal law gives Congress the power to challenge the validity of the electors they deem not regularly given. Federal appeals court judge recently opined that a candidate ineligible to hold office under the insurrection clause would be a valid basis for Congress to reject electors, right? And that's what we've been asking about since SCOTUS. What is the mechanism by which they can invalidate somebody? Well, just reject the votes is one way to do it. Jason Murray, the attorney who argued the 14th Amendment case on behalf of those seeking Trump's disqualification, warned the justices this could create a crisis, and they got obliterated. What happens when members of Congress, when they count the votes, when members say that they're not going to count the votes cast for Trump? What's going to happen? Weeks before, Raskin also warned this scenario could come to pass. He said, they want to kick it to Congress, says Raskin, so it's going to be up to us on January 6th to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we'll need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because 9 justices simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the 14th Amendment means. And that sounds like he's planning for an insurrection. But in the ensuing 8 months, like, the people will win and he's going to reject it, and then he's going to create civil war. Is he plotting an insurrection right now? But in the ensuing months, neither Raskin nor his colleagues have endorsed this. No one's talking about that, said Raskin in a recent interview. Yeah, right, Raskin. You were a couple months ago. Other Democrats have explicitly disclaimed that attempt. Rep. DeGette said she would not vote to reject Trump's votes based on the insurrection clause, and that was a spokesman for her. Democrats, loath to publicly discuss a scenario where Trump wins, have privately said they've not heard any discussions about the insurrection clause, whether he wins or loses. Publicly, dozens of Democrats in the House and Senate have vowed to affirm the results. Their intentions belie what constitutional scholars say is a genuine conundrum. It's a serious problem, said this person. It's quite possible that Trump could take office without any legal determination that he's eligible to hold office. But there was. He got impeached for J6 and he was not convicted. There was a determination by Congress and he was acquitted. In its March opinion, the Supreme Court implied, though didn't exactly explicitly state, that this is the problem, right? They weren't clear about it, that Congress must pass legislation to lay out a procedure to determine whether a current or former office holder has violated the insurrection clause. So there must be some sort of due process. It's a gap that leaves some uncertainty about what Congress can do. But most constitutional scholars say it would be improper for lawmakers to make a judgment about Trump's eligibility without a forum, right? So you need some process, some proceeding or hearing. Congress does not have the capacity in the J6 joint session to do so because they can't hold the hearing there. They're there to count the votes. They're there not to contest and discuss insurrection at that time. Edward Foley, another professor who has written about the clause, said the Supreme Court left a gap on this issue, but doesn't think members of Congress will step into the breach. Everything I've seen indicates that Democrats in Congress won't attempt this. In a hypothetical scenario in which Trump's opponents controlled the House and the Senate, which, with enough votes to disqualify his electors, which they won't have, said it's unclear whether courts would step in to block it. So we'll see what happens. Now, if it's a close election, you better believe, man, they're going to fight tooth and nail in every single state, like they did in Florida with Gore. But here, it'll be legal bloodbath all over the place if it's close. The Democrats will not allow this to happen easily. You saw Raskin. They're not talking about it now, because if they talk about it now, here's the problem. Then it really makes them gigantic hypocrites. It makes them look like fools. Wait a minute. You've been screaming for 4 years that Trump didn't honor the results of the election, and now you're going to say you're not going to honor the results of the election? The people are going to override the insurrection clause. Like, everybody knows what happened on J6. Everybody gets it. If they vote for him in spite of that, then you're going to disqualify him. You're going to veto the will of the people. You can't talk about that. Now, they are talking about it, but they can't discuss it publicly. So you can see this was a backlash. He got a talking to probably from Hakeem and from Schumer and Pelosi, who's probably really running things still. Got a talking to, hey, stop talking about this, okay? That's our plan. We're going to say it's the Russians first before we try to steal and override the will of the people. And that's how it should have been the entire time, by the way. You don't need to prosecute him for political prosecutions with an illegitimate prosecutor called Jack Smith. If the people think Trump is an insurrectionist, they're not going to vote for him. If he's really undermining democracy, you don't need a sales pitch to sell stuff that is obvious. We get it. But they are basically out of options. So Raskin probably got a talking to. The reason being, it's bad politically for them. It makes them look like fools because they've been screaming about Trump not following the will of the people. Now they're postulating a plan on doing what they allege he did. So here are some updates, some poll updates, very close, neck and neck, as you can see today from 538. Latest numbers, Trump wins 51 out of 100. Harris wins 48 out of 100. Neck and neck, super close. So if you were in a position, if you had to pick a position to be in, you'd be in Trump's position, but still the numbers are very close. So nobody's resting on their laurels. We've got an aggregate of polls here. You can see kind of scattered across the place from SoCal, Tip, Atlas, Intel, Trump's +2, Trump's +1, Trump's +1, trending in the right direction there. Nate Silver's forecast and his bulletin also have some new updates as of today, Friday, November 1st. It's a beautiful Friday. It says a good update for Harris with some strong polling in blue wall states. Not much sign of a last-minute swing in this race. We're likely locked into something roughly in the toss-up range unless the last round of polling favors one side or the other, and they say, we don't know who's going to win, right? Too close to call. We can give you some probabilities, but we don't know. Now, Kamala Harris over on the New York Times is up in their polls by 1 point. National polling average, who's leading the polls, she's up by 1, and I think that is not good news for them. I think she should be expected to be much higher than that if she's going to win. win. Now, the swing states, Trump's up, Nevada, tied even in Nevada. Wisconsin, Harris is up less than 1 point. Trump is up less than 1 point. Michigan, Harris is +1. North Carolina, Trump's +1. Georgia's +2. Arizona's +3. Let's go. If you're in Arizona, man, we need you to vote. We love you, but just go vote, please. We love you. Okay, the stock market is also saying that there's a different story being told. U.S. stocks have been on a tear, with the bellwether climbing more than 10%. While the stock market is not necessarily representative, the performance has been a strong indicator of whether the incumbent is going to win. The index is falling. Investors are bracing for more uncertainty from a new administration. But a climb means the current president is going to win. And the index's rise means that Kamala is going to win. Could be bound for a victory. Okay, so that's one take looking at the stocks. We've also got Gallup is saying that the Democrats have more enthusiasm than the Republicans, which is lunacy. We got to pump those numbers up, but the numbers are very tight. So the latest poll says during the poll, 20% of registered voters said they've already voted. Last month, 40% of registered voters expected to vote, compared with 54% today. So those numbers are going up. Democrat voters more likely to cast early ballots. Currently, 63% of voters who are Democrats have already voted, compared with 47 who've already voted. 16 percentage point gap is similar to what they measured in 2020. And you can see there were some other numbers. And I saw an enthusiasm gap that said that Democrats were a little bit more enthusiasm here. Here we go. It says 70% of registered voters say that they're more enthusiastic than usual. The increase was largely the result of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents expressing heightened enthusiasm after Kamala replaced Joe. Now Democrats maintain elevated enthusiasm at 77%, compared with 67% among Republicans. What? All right, Republicans. I need everybody to put a MAGA hat on right now. Just do it, wherever you're at. Where's mine? I wore it last night. It's over there. All right, I'll put it on after the show. Got to get our MAGA energy up, baby. Get that energy up. All right, so, and I got my dark MAGA hat. We'll get it here in a second. So that's coming up. We've got early voting numbers. You can see we have this report over from a Florida university that has some reports in. Total people voted, I guess, across everything from these reporting states. Looks like these are the numbers here. So 12-5 to 11-8, all across the place. Numbers neck and neck. We're expecting a lot more Republicans to vote on election day, but it'd be amazing to be beating them now. Total voted by age. See this broken down. Shout out to 41 to 65, bringing in the bulk here. Shout out to our over 65 seniors. We love our seniors here. 38% to our seniors. Gender, male. Oh gosh, bros, we're getting blown out. We got to pound the sand, pound the tables, baby. We got to text all of our other bros. Bros, don't let bros vote late or not vote at all. We get our bros voting. I'm texting everybody I know today. I hope you are too. Total voted by race and Hispanic ethnicity. Looks like you can see a breakdown here. Non-Hispanic white, 65%. Non-Hispanic black, 22%. Hispanic, 2.5%. And more breakdowns by race there. So interesting numbers. All right, bros. Got to get those numbers up. Get those votes in, baby. All right, so that's happening. And then Polymarket, you can see, also has some other numbers here. Trump has crossed 61% on Polymarket, which, of course, those are good numbers. So seeing some movement there. I think the swing states, Michigan had a big jump last night. I think Kamala took the lead over there pretty substantively last night. And then neck and neck in Wisconsin. I don't know what happened in Michigan, but you can see, I think there was a big swing right there. Look at that. 830. What happened there? I don't even know. What the heck happened? This is Michigan. Jocelyn Benson did something. She come up with a statement. Is it the Minion news? Is it the Tabulator news? Was there an endorsement? Who knows? But it's close, my friends. And you can see some good numbers there for the president. Keep our eye on it. And we'll be here on election night to break it all down.